I had been trained to trust the silence of the deep ocean, to read the faintest echo on the sonar screen like a pianist reading sheet music. To me, the deep was a friend, a vast unknown that followed laws of physics, biology, and acoustics. It never lied, or so I believed. In late January 2030, our mission was supposed to be routine. We'd peeled through the ice just south of the North Pole on the USS Polaris, a stalwart-class nuclear submarine renowned for Arctic patrols. Polly, as we called her in unofficial moments, was my home and prison for the past 6 weeks. I was Petty Officer Second Class Ethan Driscoll, sonar technician. 100 men and women shared this steel tube, and we all knew something was weird about this patrol. The sonar room was my sanctuary and war room. I sat in a swivel chair surrounded by consoles glowing emerald and amber. Active and passive sonar scopes, surface search radar, navigation plots, they flickered constant streams of data. The faint hum of generators and the distant whoosh of cooling water were my constant companions. From outside came the deep muffled roar of the pack ice, groaning as it pressed and shifted overhead. Officially, we were on an oceanographic survey. The Navy's briefing said we'd map ice thickness, test new hydrophones in polar conditions, and maybe gather magnetic readings. In reality, no one wanted to admit a sophisticated attack boat was leaking intel gathering into a science mission. But we had top-secret equipment on board and orders tucked inside classified folders. They likely hoped whatever secrets were down there would stay quiet, but they hadn't counted on me. At 300 hours, in the perpetual twilight under winter ice, Polaris droned slowly along a preset track. We ran quietly at 4 knots, about 150 meters below the ice, to keep our exterior sonar dome safe from the ice keels above. The water was bone-chilling, minus 1.5 degrees Celsius, but inside we stayed toasty. Even so, the climate control always struggled with the cold metal pressing in. Sometimes ice would form on the sight glass. My shift had the largely routine, pinging the ice above in a fan pattern, building a sonar map of the underside of ice flows. The data would help predict ice stability, useful for submariners and climate scientists alike. I idly sipped coffee from a thermos and scanned the screens. There was something hypnotic about reading these sonar contours. The graphics scrolled up like a translucent 3D topography, green lines on black, half of it annotated by automated text. Aside from the ship's gentle thrum, it was silent, until the ping broke the quiet. After each ping, our computer listens for echoes. Normally, the echoes were expected, consistent lines confirming the ice thickness. This time, however, a fraction of a second after the ping, I noticed something odd, a tiny blip far below, not aligned with any ice pattern, a single dot drifting slowly. "Lieutenant Ramirez," I said over the comm panel, trying to keep my voice neutral. "I'm seeing a return at bearing 030, range 2.1 kilometers. It doesn't match the ice geometry." Ramirez, the senior officer of the watch, swung around. He was halfway through reviewing a depth chart, eyebrows raised. "Run it through the classification filters," he ordered quietly. I did. In a few seconds, the software issued the dreaded amber tag, Unknown Contact. The sub's log flagged it. "Passive listens?" Ramirez asked. I toggled to the hydrophone feed. Nothing but distant static. No engine hum, no whale song. "All quiet," I confirmed. "This echo had a return, but I get 0 sound on passive. It's not broadcasting. An eerie chill crept up my spine. The contact stayed on screen like two unblinking eyes peering from the darkness. One was ahead to the northeast, about 40 meters long, the other a bit behind it. The shapes were wrong for any known submarine or any creature we'd catalogued. "Sir, we have two solid moving contacts under the ice. They responded to our active ping by altering course." Commander Vance's voice crackled back. "Maintain stealth. Do not reveal position. Keep it on sonar and maneuver with caution." I swallowed hard. We were now tracking something unprecedented. I thought of the Arctic legends, monstrous squid, lost Nazi subs, under-ice bases. But those were movies. This was real life. We continued our course, letting the contacts move relative to us. In the green scope, each ping made them recoil a bit, then settled onto a new track. They were definitely alive, maybe even intelligent. Each time I pinged, they'd dart aside or change depth. It felt like a suspense movie, prey and predator at sonar range. After about 30 minutes of cat and mouse under the ice, one of the contacts did the unexpected. It turned upward. The depth indicator for that return shot from 150 meters to 60 meters under the ice, dangerously close to the keel. I watched, heart pounding. The ping echoed again, and that contact suddenly exploded northwards at an incredible 15 knots, far faster than any whale or squid known. The other contact, almost in unison, burst away. In seconds, both vanished off our scopes. I switched from passive to active wide scan. Only silence greeted us. "Lost them," I reported flatly. Both contacts disappeared into the ice field to the north. Lieutenant Ramirez clenched his jaw. Captain Vance, arriving in person, peered at the screens. He uttered a rare two-word phrase. "Damn it." Something unnameable had been below us, and it heard our every ping. Whatever it was gone for now. Vance took a deep breath. He said, "Keep a log and stay alert, but resume our mission plan. Sensor sweeps only, no more chasing fairy tales." He had a smirk, the hint of a joke, though I knew he was serious. The Polaris held course, continuing the planned under-ice mapping. So our day returned to normal, the instruments humming with routine data. But in my mind, nothing would ever be routine again. We had tracked something under the ice, and it was listening back. For the rest of that 24-hour cycle, the incident hung over our crew like the Arctic darkness outside. Word spread on Polaris. Sonar detected something odd under the ice. In the mess hall during break, sailors murmured theories. "Did you hear that? They chased whales," one petty officer joked over dinner. His eyebrows were raised in excitement. "Whales don't shoot off like torpedoes, kid," a chief retorted with a grin, shaking his head. I kept to myself mostly. Every so often I saw the captain's name on a chart, the radio in the officer's cabin with the line open to command, hearsay of urgent new instructions. Nothing official filtered down. That afternoon, I stepped into the galley for coffee to calm my nerves. The submariner beside me gave me a wary smile. "How do you follow a ghost under ice?" he whispered, nodding toward the sonar door. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I don't think this thing is an accident. It moved when we pinged. It wasn't scared, it was aware." Another crew member chimed in, voice low. "Could be one of those deep-sea squid monsters. We heard stories, colossal squid. You do realize deep is different. Whatever it is, it's under polar ice, in total dark. It's not a giant octopus. It's smarter. It ducked our ping like it knew we were watching. Just then, on the overhead speaker, the conning tower crackled. "All hands prepare for remote sub deployment." A silence fell. Remote sub? That could only be one thing. Polaris had a new torpedo tube-launched drone, an underwater ROV designed for covert recon. I exchanged looks with Chief Petty Officer Reynolds, the head sonar tech. He gave me a wink. "Use your noodle." Before long, the command center authorized a cautious plan. The Spectres, as we'd nicknamed them, had vanished to the north under the ice. The captain wanted eyes on them. Better to send the ROV Seahawk rather than risk the whole submarine. We could use Seahawk's sonar and cameras. Hours later, Polaris drifted silently in position. Engineers loaded Seahawk into a launch canister. It was torpedo-sized, with a stinger tail of batteries, wrapped in sleek black. This thing was our one shot to actually see what was down there. In sonar, I watched as Seahawk was released from our tube, shooting out into the cold. It activated with a soft whir, switched to low light mode, and began sending data. "Seahawk has deployed," the officer of the deck called out. In the sonar room, we held our breath. It pinged once towards 030 bearing. "Ping active," I reported. We waited. Beep. The sonar returned a pale glow. On the dim screen, something huge passed by, a silhouette like an undulating mountain. Seahawk's cameras lit up with bioluminescent flora, at first, then a colossal shape. One, maybe two immense forms swam into view, brushing by Seahawk's lights. "Oh my God," I whispered, gripping the console. On the video monitor, I saw it clearly at last, a massive creature, maybe the length of our submarine or longer. Its skin was dark gray with stripes of pale bioluminescent bands. It had broad flippers, and the camera's light caught the gleam of an eye as big as a truck tire. It was humanoid at the face almost, with a slitted pupil and lines like gills. Then my stomach flipped. It had a mouth, large, and something like tendrils on its chin. Sailors behind me murmured, "What is that?" The ROV sensors picked up its echo song, 3 pulsed clicks on Seahawk's mic. It was a call. Captain Vance asked, "Are we hearing it respond?" "Yes, sir," I answered. The pulses were rhythmic, almost musical. It felt like a language. We were literally in a conversation with this thing, or creatures. I replayed it. Click, 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 click. Twice, then once, then thrice. One of the crew half joked, "Give him a return hello." I squared my shoulders and keyed Seahawk. Echo. Click, 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 click. Imitating its pattern. We waited. The sub held position. Silence grew. And suddenly, the monitor went quiet. The image shimmered. Seahawk's feed cut out as something collided with it. "Camera off! Sonar! Hitting static!" Sonar tech barked. On screen, we saw Seahawk spin, then disappear. The creature or creatures had rammed Seahawk. A high-pitched screech erupted in the audio as the feed snapped. Seahawk's signal died out. "Seahawk went black," came the tense voice of our engineering officer. He was trying to contact the drone. My heart pounded. We had just attacked its machine. The water pressure alarms ticked in my brain. If it attacked Seahawk, would it come for us next? The sonar display lit up, 2 fast-moving echoes diving away. They'd heard us try to talk. Maybe they were upset, curious, or defensive. "Damage report on Seahawk," the captain ordered through comms. "No visual, electronics seem offline. We might have a communication link, but no camera," the tech replied grimly. Captain Vance gave a flat order. "Recover Seahawk. I want it out now." Tension thickened the sub's atmosphere as we scrambled. Polaris maneuvered and clawed up the ROV's cable. After several anxious minutes, Seahawk's tube opened. It floated back, thrusters sputtering. Soon, it was drawn back inside and out of harm's way. The engineers frantically checked it out. In the control room, everyone had paled. We had gotten our answer. It was definitely alive and aggressive, or at least curious to the point of ramming our probe. Somewhere out there, those creatures, I still didn't have a real name for them, were big, intelligent, and listening. The Polaris had their attention now, and who knows what message that sent to them. Inside Polaris, shock slowly transformed into analysis. Seahawk's cameras were scratched, but not shattered. The recordings contained just static from that screech. The video had captured the creature's face, an image frozen with its eye glaring, but decimated by noise. The sonar data, however, was priceless. We played back the audio on high volume. The creature's pulses were now clearly structured, like a code. Dr. Emiko Sun, a resident biologist, attached unofficially for this mission, studied it. It's definitely some form of echolocation or communication pattern, not like any whale song I've heard. It responded logically when petrol sounded. She referred to my mimicry. I realized something. They weren't necessarily hostile. ROV was a threat to them, sure, but the pulses felt more like warning clicks than attack. Perhaps they had a language, and our ping was noise to them. Our probe had startled them. They reacted defensively. Captain Vance was deliberating. On the central display, the last known position of Seahawk and the pings were marked. We were about 30 miles into the ice pack, completely out of radio reach for AT&T or even military satellites. Our only comm was a trickle through buoyant cables, mostly useless under thick ice. No surprise, nothing back home knew what we'd found. In the cramped brig, I scribbled notes into my personal log. Something is listening under the ice. The creatures communicated in pulses. 2 encounters, one calm observation, one nearly confrontational. This was more evidence than anyone could handle outside these walls. That evening, if we could call it that, still Arctic dark, the crew buzzed with theories. Some joked about aliens under the North Pole. Others cited David Attenborough documentaries about undiscovered giant squids. But most of us realized we'd seen the impossible. One sailor confided to me, voice low, "Ethan, do you think this is why we're here? Not maps or experiments, but they sent us to find it?" I nodded quietly. If so, it means a lot slipped through. Whoever designed this mission expected to find something. Maybe that's what those seismic anomalies in Greenland were all about. Seismic anomalies? I recalled Navy chatter about weird underwater earthquakes in our patrol area. Until now, I assumed natural tectonics. What if those earthquakes were actually something moving under the ice, or creatures diving massive depths? Chief Reynolds looked over my notes, concerned. "Remember, Driscoll, you can't talk about this when we get back. Classified mission, all that. No public airing, not even offhand." I sighed. He was right. Officially, our logs would note unidentified sonar targets. Under oath, though, I knew I couldn't just forget this. Sleep was fitful. Every time the submarine jolted from an ice bump or engine hum, I imagined they'd discovered us, coming to see who dared intrude. I dreamed of dark shapes creeping along the conning tower's shadow. By early next morning, the Polaris was on the move again, repositioning. Captain Vance addressed the crew during a hasty meeting. "Last night's events are now classified. We continue our mission. Sonarmen, stay vigilant. We don't know if they'll come back or what they might do." He sounded guarded and resolute, but inside I sensed an undercurrent, wonder mixed with fear. We resumed pings cautiously. Every splash of sound and return was examined, until we neared the edge of the ice basin. Suddenly, our chart showed a vast cavern of open water. The first sunlight in weeks, weak Arctic dawn, filtered through a gap. Above, the ice ceiling opened to the sky. A rare sight, winged shadows of seabirds skimmed the water through the hole. Surfacing opportunity, the captain decided, after a quick table briefing. The Polaris slowly ascended and pried through the ice, pushing up pieces on her sail. I found a rarely used respirator mask and steel-plated helmet and trotted up topside on an icy deck. Biting Arctic air and sunshine on my face felt surreal. Up on the ice, the crew spilled out, some for fresh air, some to record the landscape with cameras. Thick snowfields surrounded an open lead of dark water. It was silent except for distant cracking ice. I stood at the edge scanning with a binocular. Nothing but water, which was perfect. The creature presumably couldn't escape into land. We had a chance to truly study the waters at the edge of the ice. Back inside, the sonar team set new parameters, reduced ping power, more passive listening. If the creatures thought we retreated, maybe they would come in for a closer look. A few tense minutes passed. Suddenly, the hydrophone picked up a familiar low-frequency pulse. It was rhythmic, slow, unlike the earlier bursts. Not a threat message, but a lonely call across the waters. A single, mournful pulse, repeated every few seconds. "That's them," whispered someone. It was gentle, almost musical, like a lost whale song, but deeper. It came from just beyond the ice hole, out there in the dark Arctic water. I stepped back from the sonar screen in shock. The captain was already on deck and told me, "Ethan, you sonar men catch that?" I nodded. This new pulse was coming straight at us from below. They must have surfaced or swam nearer now that we were cresting the ice. My pulse raced as I realized if we dive again, we might confront them at sea level. "Sir, they're broadcasting from the water outside. We should consider tracking them with passive sonar before diving in." He consulted his officers. "Deploy the MAG-DRU pelagic drone," he decided. Another underwater drone, built to slip out covertly. "Turn off pings. Let's not spook them." Silently, Polaris dove off her perch beneath the newly broken ice. We held passive sonar as we descended in the open water, listening for that pulse. And then we saw them on passive echoes, two giants, much closer now, stalking below our keel. The sonar scope showed twin shapes gliding. This time, they seemed calm. One brushed nearly against the sub's hull underside as we passed slowly, carrying on into the gloom. I caught sight through a portal, vague silhouettes sliding by, monstrous flippers pattering water. The sub's hull was shielded, but one could feel the immense pressure of their passing. I leaned in. Did I see an eye peering at my station? My mind played tricks. They had evidently settled that we were leaving. My hand still shook as Captain Vance finally ordered, "All ahead, get us away on original patrol. Enough for today." We slid back under the ice, leaving the newly explored sea behind. The journey home was an uneasy calm. Polaris surfaced fully near Thule, Greenland, just long enough to break ice and get a patch to relay a report. But military satellites wouldn't care about a couple of odd sonar pings. As suspected, our report to base was carefully worded. Encountered biological sonar contacts, no hostile action. Conducted further oceanographic survey, No anomalies to report. No mention of exactly what we saw. We filed detailed logs, but those ended up classified. In the following days, morale was oddly subdued. We all knew what happened, but had orders to treat it as a trivial sonar glitch. At night, I heard hushed talk. Some crew claimed they heard the creature's pulse tap on the hull. Others said that was just ice noises. On radar screens back home, our return was smooth and uneventful. No submarine had reported tracking anything strange on those days. In the Navy jargon that circulated quietly among insiders, subject is KIA. We were told to consider it gone, status classified. Even Polaris's next port call in Iceland came with more hush-hush. We disembarked for rest, but conversations everywhere revolved around, "See anything cool on this cruise?" I steered away. But I kept thinking of Captain Vance's final words. It isn't over. These depths hold secrets. A few weeks later, at a naval research conference, off-duty in civilian clothes, I overheard scientists debating a mysterious sonar anomaly recorded in Greenland's fjords. Rumors of striped leviathan had even reached certain forums. A chill ran down my spine. No one would publicly say they believed such tales, but quietly, evidence built. I still have Seahawk's images, every dot of data downloaded onto my personal hard drive in the bowels of Polaris. Late at night, when engine hum lulls me, I pull them up. The sonar logs with two blips moving like dancers on the sea chart, the ROV's glitchy echo pulses. Sometimes I wonder, out there, under some other patch of ice or deeper canyon, are those creatures still watching us? Do they remember us? Are they listening every time a submarine pings the darkness? I think of our last under-ice rendezvous. I whisper into the waterhole memory, "We are listening too. We did not mean harm." No answer, except the slow drip of ice melt on the hull. One late night in port, I received an encrypted message from a professor friend at Woods Hole. "Ethan, something's interesting on SAR scans up north. Heard from a reliable source you might know something. If so, talk. Dr. K." It was signed cryptically. He might have his suspicions, but I doubt any official will ever admit the truth. For now, the Polaris mission is filed under mysterious depths. I didn't join the Navy to find mythical beasts, but as I sit here and look at Polaris's sonar console snapshot, I realize in those frozen depths we might have found them. And whether anyone believes it or not, I'll never forget that silence can be a two-way street under the ice. Because we tracked something under the ice that moved and listened. And out there, someplace, it might just be listening to us as well.